Welcome back to Podcast and Chill. This is Gwen.
And this is your favorite sidekick, Leo.
So, Leo, I know you've been pretty open about your journey with changing habits.
Oh man, absolutely. If I had a dime every time I tried to break out of my old routines,
Let me guess. You would be a billionaire by now?
you bet. I used to spend every waking moment scrolling through memes, instead of, being a functioning adult.
To be honest, knowing you now, that's hard to imagine. But it wasn't an overnight transformation, was it?
I really wish it was. It took me so many failed attempts before I finally became the person I am today.
So, have you ever wondered why some people seem to transform their lives so easily, while others keep getting stuck in the same cycles?
Isn't it because they're just playing life on easy mode or something?
The bad news is, there's no such thing as easy mode. The good news? It's science. So as long as we figure the specific reasons people fail at change and learn some proven methods to break through those barriers, we can easily flip our lives over too.
Now that sounds like something our listeners and honestly, probably all of us could really use. Let's go!
So before we talk about solutions, let's be honest about what's holding us back.
Yeah, hit me with all the usual suspects.
Enemy number one is perfectionism.
Why is wanting to be perfect a bad thing?
Because when you're a perfectionist, you only want to start when the perfect moment comes along.
And what's wrong with that?
The thing is, you never actually know when the perfect moment is. It's like saying you'll start applying for jobs when you have this skill or that skill down pat.
Oh man, you just called me out. I used to say, I'll start learning French seriously when I have 2 hours free every day. Guess what? That day never came.
I bet it didn't. Perfectionism is also the root of enemy number two.
Oh, what's that one?
It's negative self-talk.
Like telling yourself, I'm just not good at this, or I always screw up?
Yep. That pessimistic internal monologue.
Ugh, I hate that voice in my head. It's like having a really mean roommate who never pays rent.
That's actually a perfect way to put it. Those voices come from constantly worrying about making mistakes, fear of being judged, and not being able to meet your own impossible standards.
That explains why I had such a hard time getting started with anything. I never felt confident enough, thanks to my little friend.
And since you're so anxious about all the potential pitfalls out there, you tend to prefer staying in your comfort zone, which is enemy number three.
I get it. We get so comfortable with our current situation that change feels scary as hell.
Right? That's why a lot of people would rather scroll through TikTok, Instagram, or X than spend months learning a new skill that's actually challenging.
Well, I mean, I've been in their shoes, so I know how hard it is to break free from that comfort zone.
But people often forget that we need to get uncomfortable. To grow like a butterfly has to go through metamorphosis.
That said, how can someone know if they'll change for the better? What if they change for the worse?
That fear of failure is in fact our fourth enemy.
This enemy is the worst one, I think.
This one's kind of related to the negative self-talk. You know, the whole glass half full, half empty thing. But the truth is, you'll never be able to succeed if you don't even try.
Oh, so you really do miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Pretty much. That's the price a negative person has to pay.
I guess sometimes we just need a little push to actually change.
You mean motivation?
Yes.
Unfortunately, motivation is the final boss in this whole failure battle.
Seriously, why?
Because it doesn't seem as dangerous as the other four enemies, people tend to overlook it and then fall right into this trap.
Why is it a trap?
Motivation is tied to feelings, like excitement or a random spark of inspiration. But those things have one problem.
What's that?
They fade fast.
You're right, it comes and goes like the weather.
Even worse when your motivation comes from outside sources. If that thing disappears, so does your drive.
I see. Motivation gets us going, but it won't keep us going.
Exactly.
So if I feel like I should hit the gym, I shouldn't wait for motivation. I should just go.
Why not? Unless you're injured, working out is never a bad move.
You know what? If these 5 enemies of change were a crime, I'd be locked up for life.
Were you really that bad? Yeah, I used to be totally hooked on doom scrolling. I'd just lie in bed all day watching memes and random videos instead of Going outside or doing anything actually useful. I'm glad you got out of that cycle.
Yeah, a little black and blue, but I'm here and better off.
Which is great because it means you're going to have some great insight to share in the next part when we talk about these 4 strategies for people ready to turn their lives around.
Spill it already.
So, method number 1 is micro changes, or specifically, the 1% mindset.
What's the 1% mindset?
It's a concept popularized by James Clear in his book Atomic Habits. The core idea is if you improve by just 1% each day, it might not seem like much at first, but over time, it adds up in a big way.
Is this concept actually concrete?
Well, let's do some math.
Oh no, please no math.
Relax. James did it for us already. He said, and I quote, "If you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Conversely, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you'll decline nearly down to 0.
Interesting, but how much is 1%?
Well, it depends on each individual, but we can put it like this. If you want to pick up a new language, don't go all in by claiming you'll study for 3 hours every day.
Oh, been there, done that, lesson learned. I was once all hyped to learn French and told myself I would study 5 hours a day.
And then what happened?
Apparently, I set myself up for failure with that goal. I realized it could really drain me and demotivate me real fast.
True. Instead, to get better at English, French, or any other language, you can start with small and simple daily activities, like listening to a podcast or watching a sitcom.
Yeah, that sounds way easier. In fact, when I stopped pushing myself with this super intense study plan and just started watching random French YouTube videos, I ended up learning more than I expected.
That's how it works. Small steps stack up. It's like, have you ever seen a bamboo plant grow?
Not really, no.
For the first few years, you barely see any growth. Then suddenly, it shoots up 90 feet in just 6 weeks.
That's crazy.
I know, right? But our habits are just like bamboo. You might not see results immediately, but they're building up underground.
That's so cool.
All right, now let's move to the second solution, which is changing the way you view yourself.
That sounds pretty serious.
Not at all. The idea here is very simple. You change how you see yourself before you change what you do.
For example,
Instead of saying, I want to lose weight, you say, I am someone who cares about health.
and why is it helpful?
It's hard to stick to new behaviors if they don't match how you see yourself. If you have a negative self-image, your actions will constantly battle it, eventually dragging you back to old habits.
I see what's going on here. So the key is to decide who you want to be, and then your actions will flow from that identity.
That's exactly what I mean.
This reminds me of when I got so tired of my lazy identity and decided to change it to someone who's always trying to improve.
I can see it worked really well for you because look at you now. I'm so proud of you, Leo.
Thanks, Gwen. I didn't even realize that shift was so powerful until you explained it.
It's huge. Once your identity changes, your habits follow. Each action reinforces who you're becoming.
I'm glad I changed, or else you'd have a co-host who's a self-proclaimed cat meme expert.
Well, while I do think that sounds kind of fun, I definitely prefer this version of Leo as my co-host.
You bet.
Now, it's time for solution number 3, which is environment design.
That sounds like architect work.
Pretty much. Let me quote my favorite author, James Clear, one more time. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior.
Why's that?
Our brains naturally look for signals in our surroundings. When the things that trigger a good habit are obvious and in plain sight, we're more likely to spot them and take action.
Really?
Really. So, if you want to read more, put a book on your pillow. If you want to eat healthier, put fruits where you can see them.
What if I want to break bad habits instead of building good ones?
To break bad habits, the opposite applies. Make the cues or signals for unwanted behaviors invisible. For example, if you want to stop eating junk food, don't keep it in the house.
Oh, I did this with my phone. I was spending too much time scrolling, so I started putting it in another room when I needed to focus.
And how did that work out?
Turns out, if my phone isn't right next to me, I actually forget about it. Who knew?
Sometimes the simplest changes have the biggest impact.
It's amazing how I actually applied these strategies to my life without even knowing it. Now I'm ready for the next solution.
The next solution, which is also the last one, is just do it now.
That sounds familiar, like a certain sneaker slogan.
Please pardon my poor attempt to be funny. Anyway, the idea here is to act immediately regardless of whether you feel ready enough or not.
Ah, so this is for all the perfectionists out there?
Yep, this directly fights our perfectionism enemy. Instead of waiting for the perfect plan, you just start.
Done is better than perfect, right? But what if I mess up?
Then you mess up. The point is to take action, learn, and adjust. Every mistake teaches you something.
So I don't need to have it all figured out?
Nope. In fact, you can't figure it all out until you start doing it. It's like trying to learn to ride a bike by reading about it.
That actually makes lots of sense. I did have to actually get on the bike and probably fall a few times.
Same experience for me.
So, our dear listeners, if you've been stuck in the same cycle, maybe it's not you that's the problem. It's the tools you've been using.
Now that you have the right weapons, which one will you use first to fight your battle?
Gwen, I think it's time to go over some key vocabulary from our talk today. First, have something down pat. It means to know something so well that you can do it perfectly and effortlessly. For example, she practiced her presentation so many times. She had it down pat by the day of the event.
Second, be in someone's shoes. This means to imagine being in someone else's situation or experiencing what they're going through. For example, I wouldn't judge her. If I were in her shoes, I might have done the same thing.
Third, be tied to something. It means to be closely connected or restricted by something, like a responsibility or a place. For example, I'd love to travel more, but I'm tied to my job right now.
Fourth, be locked up. It usually means someone is in jail. For example, he got locked up for stealing a car.
Finally, turn something around. It means to make a big positive change, especially after a bad situation. For example, their company was struggling, but a new manager turned it around in just 6 months.
Now it's time for a quick quiz.
Hit me! I'm ready.
First question, why is motivation kind of a trap?
Easy, because motivation depends on feelings, and feelings aren't reliable. It might get you started, but it won't keep you going.
Nailed it. Next question, why do you need to change how you see yourself before you change what you do?
Well, because if your new habits don't match your self-image, they won't stick.
Exactly. Short but very well explained.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's go over what we talked about today.
So, before you fight a battle, you must know who your enemies are. Perfectionism, negative self-talk, comfort zones, fear of failure, and waiting for motivation.
You should also remember well your weapons, which are the 1% mindset, identity shift, environment design, and taking action immediately.
And here's the thing, every moment is an opportunity to act, like the person you're trying to become.
Right now, this very second. You don't have to wait for Monday or next month, or when you feel ready.
Remember, everyone, change starts with deciding to act, not waiting for inspiration.
Right, change is a daily practice, not a final destination. You already have everything you need to start.
The only question is, will you begin today?
Before this episode ends, pick one strategy and act on it right away.
If you're still hesitant, just remember, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time!